Today I'm reacting to your Monday Night Raw Hot Takes, the last 3-hour Monday Night Raw of the entire year. Hot Takes is a weekly video series where I give you all a platform to be able to voice your thoughts, whether they're good thoughts or bad thoughts or everything in between about the world of professional wrestling. So if you want your hot takes featured in next week's Hot Takes video, make sure that you're following me on X because I ask for your hot takes after every episode of Raw, SmackDown, and every WWE Premium Live event. So yes, that means that we'll be asking for your hot takes immediately after Bad Blood. And as always, don't forget to subscribe to this channel, ring the bell for notifications. If you're a wrestling fan, I know that you're gonna fall in love with his YouTube channel because we always upload daily wrestling content. All right, let's read your stupid shit. One thing that I love about these mid-card feuds is that Triple H makes both wrestlers feel strong and get more TV time. And I'm glad that we've gotten to witness more Bronson Reed and Braun Strowman. I would say that right now, the WWE mid-card might be the healthiest that it's ever been. At the very least, the healthiest that it's been ever since I started watching professional wrestling. Whether it's the title picture with the Intercontinental Championship or the US title, whether it's the non-title feuds, whether it's the women's mid-card, even that's cooking to the point where we're asking for women's mid-card titles. Raw, SmackDown, even NXT, everything is just clicking in the mid-card. And one of the beautiful things that you mentioned here is that people in these mid-card feuds are coming out looking strong after the feuds. No one is getting buried. No one is getting propelled significantly more than the other person. It just feels balanced. And part of that balance comes from the fact that they're all getting so much more TV time, but part of the reason for that is because WWE isn't booking these matches at premium live events because they're reserving only the top main event feuds for shows like Bad Blood and other premium shows. So that means that matches like Braun Strowman versus Bronson Reed, not only do the matches happen on Raws and SmackDown, but the entire feud plays out on Raw and SmackDown. And I think that that's really nice. Because let me just quickly spoil this for you. That last Monster Standing match, the upcoming ladder match that's happening between the Bloodline, DIY, and the Profits, the street fight that we just had between the Wyatt Sicks and American Made, the stuff that's going on with Andrade and Carmelo Hayes, all of these banger mid-card matches under a previous regime would have only been paid off at a WWE Premium Live event. They would have put that behind a paywall. But in today's landscape, it just happens on Raw and SmackDown and everyone is benefiting from it. Seth returning at the end was so surprising and the perfect way to protect Bronson in his loss. I love the stomp and how Seth stood tall. I have missed him. I think we've all missed Seth Rollins. Like, Seth Rollins is just such an important part of WWE programming in general. I will say I was kind of bummed that they even mentioned Seth Rollins throughout the show because they even asked Bronson Reed if he's nervous about the potential return of Seth Rollins because that kind of telegraphed that Seth Rollins was going to return at some point. I just didn't think that it was going to be as early as that very same night. But it was a brilliant, genius way to bring Seth Rollins back because it brought him back in a major way. It gave Braun Strowman the win in this feud, and it also, as you mentioned, really protected Bronson Reed in his loss because although he lost, he's the one that's walking away with the big next feud, unlike Braun Strowman here, because at least Bronson Reed has Seth Rollins to look forward to, and that is going to be Bronson Reed's biggest and most important feud of his entire career. This is where he could become a perennial main eventer if he can deliver alongside Seth Rollins, and everything that I've seen so far from Bronson Reed tells me that he's absolutely going to. Braun Breakker turning face was a great twist that I didn't expect. Definitely the right choice as it lets Jey move on to something more exciting and new before he has to drop it and go do Bloodline stuff while Braun can hype up the fans purely as a face. To me, it was a matter of time. The crowd reactions that Braun Breakker was getting anytime that he was doing backstage interviews or making his way to the ring in matches were just too undeniable to keep him away from being a babyface. Clearly, the people want to root for this guy because they recognize just how goddamn good Braun Breakker is, not just in the ring, but his storytelling and his mic work is truly fantastic as well. He is a great product of what NXT 2.0 was trying to do, and clearly it's worked. It is sort of interesting that that segment between Jey Uso and Braun Breakker sort of felt like they were just parting ways and Braun Breakker was going to do something else while Jey Uso is going to be defending against new people like Xavier Woods and maybe doing open challenges, whatever it might be. I thought that maybe they would run it back because the match was so entertaining, but to run it back would mean that Braun Breakker would need to be heel most likely, and it's clear that the WWE just has ambitions to turn this guy babyface and make him into one of the biggest stars that they have. Hot take, the Judgment Day storyline is drier than my aunt's chicken. It absolutely sucks and it's boring. Brother, it's chicken. Just tell your aunt to like look up a decent recipe on YouTube. It's not that damn hard. But the Judgment Day storyline with the Terror Twins is stalling out a little bit, but I think that there are major moments to come that will allow this storyline to really start to cook, to really marinate and build up into shows like Survivor Series. We still have that mystery business deal that Finn Balor did alongside Liv Morgan. We don't know what that is yet. I've predicted that it could be them aligning alongside Raquel Rodriguez, who last time that she was around, she had major problems with Rhea Ripley. She was friends with Liv Morgan. That could be a natural way for Liv Morgan to have a body there that could actually lay hands on Liv Morgan, because they won't do male on female violence, which is a good thing, by the way. I don't want to see Dominic Mysterio beating down Rhea Ripley, for God's sakes. But it is at a weird moment, especially what's going on with Finn Balor and Damian Priest. It hasn't really gripped me the way that it probably ought to have gripped me with how good the double cross was at SummerSlam. I just don't feel like WWE has done a good enough job on capitalizing what happened all of those months ago to give us a bad blood worthy match. But I'm willing to let this play out because I still feel like we're in like the second or third inning of what's going on here with the Terror Twins. This is gonna last a while, so just wait and see before we start making, our full judgments on the Judgment Day. Just let this play out and let's see what they end up doing. Bronson Reed versus Braun Strowman is the best Raw main event of 2024. You know what's funny? I've received this exact same tweet like 4 or 5 different times this year alone, which just shows you how freaking good Monday Night Raw has been. And usually a lot of these awesome main event matches comes from the mid card. It's crazy because we had one that was giving me tweets like this literally the week before this with Jey Uso versus Braun Breakker. So Raw is just absolutely crushing it. But Bronson Reed versus Braun Strowman not only figuratively crushed it with how good of a match that was, but literally crushed it. Like, they crushed everything. It was so entertaining to see these guys destroy everything around them. The double barricade spot, the Death Valley driver from like the top of whatever like scaffolding that was through the tables, the spot where Bronson Reed falls back onto like 5 chairs. And of course, we were all clamoring for it. We all knew we were going to get the ring destruction, but it was still goddamn hype when it happened. All right. I turned into like a mindless monkey, like break the ring when they were up top. Look, it was beautiful. It was wonderful chaos. It was one of my favorite car crashes that I've seen all year. It's in contention for one of the best matches on Monday Night Raw this year, but there's a lot of contenders because Raw has just been so damn good. This man will be missed. This is just awful news. We've lost Ilja Dragunov for 6 to 9 months because of an ACL tear that allegedly happened during a house show in a match against Gunther. Absolutely brutal, man. It sucks that we've been getting these house show matches and not on TV. So many people wanted to see Ilja Dragunov versus Gunther, and we're going to have to wait a little bit longer. But I hope Ilja Dragunov recovers because they clearly had some plans for him there before this injury alongside the Judgment Day, the stuff with Jey Uso. There was like a nice little like hatred look between him and Finn Balor that I think could have led into a legendarily good match. Ilja is going to be just fine when he comes back, but man, like you never want to hear this from literally anybody, man. That sucks. First, Jey Uso winning / Braun losing the Intercontinental title. Then Miz's heel turn. Seems like Triple H is slowly breaking the long-term storytelling formula, and that's good because not all payoffs need a long build-up. What the fuck are you talking about? The Jey Uso build-up took like a year. Just because you got the payoff to the long-term storytelling doesn't mean that Triple H is done with long-term storytelling all of a sudden. And on top of that, the Miz heel turn has been teased for months as well. This is just another payoff of the long-term storytelling. I think long-term storytelling is here to stay, brother. We're still waiting on that Austin Theory face turn. So no, I think Triple H still loves his long-term storytelling. That has not changed. Seth Rollins coming back took the gas out of the sails for me. He just hogs the spotlight IMO. I was enjoying Raw and then he came out. I don't know. I almost feel like Triple H is scared to run Raw without him, even though he has a massive star power on that show. Well, brother, what's the alternative to just like not use Seth Rollins? Like, you gotta use him at some point. The thing is that right now, the WWE just doesn't need Seth Rollins because the WWE is so damn stacked. That's how good WWE is right now, that they can just bring back another megastar and insert him right back into WWE TV. However, I will say that the Seth Rollins involvement specifically in this finish sets us up for something great for Bronson Reed. So I do think that it was necessary, even if the entire episode was great as a whole without Seth Rollins. I think that this finish allows us to set up for an amazing feud and great storytelling and amazing matches between Bronson Reed and Seth Rollins. So I disagree with you. It didn't take the wins out of my sails. It added some wind instead. Oh my God, bro. The pop.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Oh,
nice. Oh my God.
On the run.
Oh.
Just a lot of just...
That was a sneak peek of this week's Wrestling is Cool Match Club, which is available exclusively over on patreon.com/Santizap. This week, we're looking at The Rock versus Mankind, the one with that legendary Stone Cold return. We have an Ultimate X match between the Motor City Machine Guns and Beer Money from TNA back in 2010. We're looking at a recent women's classic between Mercedes Moné and Stephanie Vaquer and AEW's Forbidden Door 2024. And we have two Hell in a Cell matches for you this week, starting with The Undertaker versus Brock Lesnar from No Mercy 2002. This one's a gem. And a recent fan favorite between the Usos and the New Day in a tag team Hell in a Cell match in 2017. Not only will you get the Match Club matches, but you're also getting the weekly Royal Rumble reviews that we're doing, the Raw reviews, the SmackDown reviews, and you're going to get the Wrestling is Cool podcast 3 days earlier than everywhere else. So if you want all of that extra content that is just not available here on YouTube and never will be, head on over to patreon.com/Santizap. I'm confident that if you even give it just 1 month, that you're gonna fall in love with it. Seriously, everybody that signs up to the Patreon absolutely loves it. Give it a shot. But that's it. All right, back to the video. Punk versus Drew has been generational, but in one of the best Raws of the year, these two brought their best, torched each other to the point that the feud blurred the lines between fiction and reality. The word, quote, cinema is now an understatement. These two just casually cut back to back some of the best promos that I've heard all year. And I'm more impressed by Drew McIntyre than I am by CM Punk, because I expect this from CM Punk. CM Punk to me is part of the holy trinity of promos: Cena, The Rock, and CM Punk. At the very, very top is Paul Heyman, but he's like in a different league of his own. Punk is one of the greatest on the mic, to the point where if you're not willing to match him and raise your game on the mic, he'll torch you. He'll destroy you. Look at what happened to poor Austin Theory when he tried to go up against Cena. That's what can happen if you don't bring your A game against CM Punk. And Drew McIntyre, not just in this promo, but in the entirety of their feud for the past like 8 months, has been matching CM Punk beat for beat on the microphone. And that just goes to show to the amazing development and amazing work that Drew McIntyre has done. And it was, to me, really highlighted and accentuated in these back-to-back amazing promos. First from Drew McIntyre, who showed up in funeral gear, telling him here that he was here to mourn his wife because he was going to send back basically a disheveled dead man that he now was going to have to be taken care of by his wife, to the point where his wife is probably going to leave him. And then CM Punk turns around and says that you're not going to be looking up at God, you're not going to be looking at the devil, you're going to be looking up at CM Punk because you made me the boogeyman that all of my detractors believe that I am. Freaking just amazing. These two damn near Oscar-worthy performances. Seth Rollins versus Bronson Reed is absolutely going to be amazing. However, it is a feud that Bronson Reed has to come out on top as the winner, or else the push will feel pointless. Bronson Reed became a star in a way he hasn't been tonight. It's only up from here. So I did talk about this a little bit earlier. I did say that this is an incredibly important feud for Bronson Reed, where this is his opportunity to taste the main event scene, and then with a great performance, just stay there forever for the rest of his career. What I don't want to see is for Bronson Reed to say lose the feud definitively and then end up like Nakamura, where he tasted the main event scene with Seth Rollins for a bit last year and then just sort of disappeared. I do not want to see that from Bronson Reed. I don't know if that necessarily means that Bronson has to win the feud. We just need to make sure that Bronson looks like a monster throughout this entire feud and delivers great promos and great matches along the way. WWE should save this match for WrestleMania 41. You know, it is entirely possible that they do. That might have just been a tease for something that's going to happen way down the line when Braun Breakker came face to face with Gunther. It's possible that this could be a WrestleMania 41 all the way that far out the line. And I'm saying this because at around the same time last year, we had a little bit of a face-off between Becky Lynch and Rhea Ripley that eventually materialized into a WrestleMania match for the title several months later. So we've seen this formula before. This match would be fucking amazing. I would absolutely pay to see Braun Breakker versus Gunther. I think it's a genius match. And if you want to take the title off of Gunther, this is a great person, a very legitimate, believable person to beat Gunther, while also at the same time making yet another new main event player for Triple H to play with. Gunther versus Sami should have had a bigger build and been at Bad Blood. Imagine the story of Gunther overcoming the one thing clouding his reputation. While I'm hyped for their match on Raw next week, it just feels like something's missing. You know what is missing, Bryce? A fucking comma or a period in this message. I lost so many brain cells trying to read this. I spent like five attempts to read this out. But I disagree with you here. I think that having Gunther versus Sami Zayn on Monday Night Raw actually kind of makes sense. Let me explain. I feel had they just announced this for Bad Blood, it would have just felt a little bit too rushed. They just don't, like you said, I just feel like they didn't do enough to build this for a premium live event, albeit the star power is absolutely there. However, next week's episode of Monday Night Raw is the first episode of Monday Night Raw that's going down to 2 hours, which to me, if I'm WWE, I want to make sure that everyone still knows that Monday Night Raw is still must-watch TV. So I'm going to stack that first episode with incredibly important matches, even though it's only 2 hours, to make sure that you keep coming and that we don't lose viewership simply because we're going from 2 to 3 hours, because it might create the narrative that Raw isn't as good. And look at that episode. It's got Sami versus Gunther. It's got the shillelagh street fight that's going on between Sheamus and Pete Dunne. We have an Intercontinental Championship match between Jey Uso and Xavier Woods. So they're really stacking that episode. And I think Gunther and Sami is a good anchor for this. But again, please, for the love of God, if you're going to send these, a little bit of punctuation would be really nice. After the Wyatt Sicks message, tonight, I think their next target might be Woods or Miz. I do think those are the obvious choices here. They both make a tremendous amount of sense. I think Woods here actually makes more sense than the Miz because the message is said that we sense you going down this path, which means he hasn't gone down that path yet like the Miz actually has. Meanwhile, Woods is kind of tempting fate. He's doing heelish things, sometimes on purpose, sometimes by accident, but he's not fully gone to that dark side. Maybe that's who the Wyatt Sicks is talking about. I think they would be money. Miz has always been best as a heel, but I feel bad for the GOAT R-Truth. Bro, I was just not emotionally ready for the heel turn just yet. It also came very quickly and out of nowhere, seemingly. I thought that they were going to build up the fact that R-Truth had come back, create that, again, emotional attachment between the Miz and your Truth for a little bit longer, for then the heel turn to hit a little bit harder. But you're right, the Miz is always best as a heel. I also do not believe any notion that, hey, this is why we need Karrion Kross to turn people heel. It's the goddamn Miz. He's always been best as a heel. People have been clamoring for him to be heel. He didn't need the Karrion Kross storyline to get to this point, frankly. Frankly, I think he was justified to some degree because R-Truth cost him a lot of matches when they were tag champions. Does the New Day really have to split up for the storyline to have a payoff? That's actually a really interesting question. Maybe not. I don't think that it has to have a full breakup, a full implosion where they can never come back. Maybe this could just be brothers fighting. It could just be infighting within the family where at the end they're still together. And I feel like that's where Big E can come into this storyline. He can be the fabric that holds everything together, and maybe the match ends and I'm thinking at WrestleMania with all of them still hugging and still being brothers. I think that'd be nice. The blue in the Intercontinental Championship was such a good touch. It looks so much better than the original, and I would argue it's the best looking championship that we have right now. It's definitely a giant step up compared to what we had before, which honestly was a bit of a lifeless championship with very little going for it. And all they had to do was add a little bit of blue. Look at that, all right? You just add a little bit of extra personality, and now all of a sudden the championship belt actually stands out. I've hated this belt from the onset. It has always been one of my least favorite designs. I've always thought it was boring, too damn bland, and too generic. But all you had to do was add a little bit of flavor and spice to it, and now it actually looks nice. The man who should take Jey Uso's Intercontinental title is Bronson Reed, 100%. He is ready to have that title on his shoulders. Not only the Intercontinental Championship, but I don't hate the idea of him becoming a World Heavyweight Champion either. They've tried making new stars with the World Heavyweight Championship division, like Gunther, like Damian Priest. Why not Bronson Reed as well? Bronson Reed has been doing some of the best work on the entirety of the Monday Night Raw roster. To me, if he goes after the IC title, that's great, that's fantastic, but I don't want to pigeonhole him just to the IC title. I absolutely see him as a credible contender to whoever is holding the World Heavyweight Championship. I think Xavier Woods accidentally unmasking Rey Mysterio could lead up to a mask versus hair match between those two. No. No, I don't think so. The women's tag team titles are starting to mean something, and that's because of the people that are involved in the feud. Obviously, we have the champions who are uber mega stars in Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair, but then you also have Io Sky, a perennial main eventer, also going after the tag titles as a member of Damage Control. When you have the division being full of these main event players, people are going to care. People are going to pay attention. All right, folks, thank you so much for sending in your hot takes. That's it. I'm done. Get out of here.